Oh, shoot. Looks like they can't hear you, but it looked like they would be able to. They can't hear either any of you guys, so 1 second. Yes, live streams, got to love them. Where's my headphones? Okay, now speak.
Hello?
Okay, they should be able to hear you now.
Oh, all right.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened there. My settings are usually pretty well set up, but yeah. So I don't think they heard any of the spiel of what you've worked on. I'm sorry.
Why don't we just introduce ourselves and we can say what we've worked on a little bit, and then we can jump right off into it. How about that?
Yes. So we'll start with Mary Bellamy. Her artwork is currently on the corner. She is drawing a circle. She didn't want to go on webcam, so we've got that. Oh, sorry. Trish, sorry.
That's fine.
Great start.
Trish. Last name's Forstner, in case anybody had any trouble with that. I'm working currently on some My Little Pony comics and a create-your-own project with Tony. And yeah, I draw ponies. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's great.
It's awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Mary?
Okay,
Yeah,
so I've done the My Little Pony comics. I've done 9 covers. I've published my own books, Faux Facts, The Truth Can Be Strange, and Ah Heck, The Angel Chronicles for the last over 20 years. I've done a lot of licensed stuff for Star Wars, Steven Universe, Adventure Time, Rick and Morty, Marvel, DC, just you name it, I've drawn licensed art. Currently, I'm doing color plating for kids' comics.
Okay.
I'm Tony Fleece. I draw mainly the My Little Pony comic books, but I've also drawn Star Wars Adventures and a bunch of other random kids comics. I also do creator-owned books. I did a book called Jeff Steinberg, Champion of Earth, a couple of years ago. And this year, I have a book coming out called Time Shopper, if books start coming out again ever.
Time Shopper.
And like Trish said, we're working on a book together called Stray Dogs. That will be an Image comic if there are still Image comics in 2 years or whenever this all ends. And currently I'm working on the My Little Pony Transformers crossover, which will come out as soon as this is all over with. But I'm finishing up the colors on it right now, so it's almost finished. And I'll probably show some of that later on.
Okay. So one of the questions that has popped up in the comments, how is everything? Because it has kind of been a little bit of a hectic few weeks for some of us. Some of us more than others. So might as well check on you guys.
Oh, well, here in Maryland, where Trish is, everything is fine. I'm working from home for my day job. And of course, I never realized that working from home could be fun. Going to the office is lame.
Now you want to do it all the time.
Now I want to do it all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
I'm a work from home girl now. This is...
And there's no going back.
Well, yeah, when this is over, it'll be going back. They'll force me to be sad. How are you guys?
I'm doing okay. A little bit concerned about the industry as a whole, but personally, I'm doing fine. I haven't lost any jobs yet. I have new work starting up soon. So the fortunate thing about being a freelancer is also the scary thing is that you're just sort of in charge of getting your own stuff done on your own. So it's sort of low stakes for some of these publishers to just sort of keep us going. Because that we assume that comics will come back at some point and they'll need to have comics then. So if I've already been started on something, a lot of the times they're just like, oh, go ahead and finish it out. So that's what I'm doing. And my wife has a really good job, so I'm not going to be destitute. So that's good.
Okay.
I'm doing okay over here. I live not that far from Tony, so I've always been work at home anyway since 2004, so not much has changed in that way. The only thing is the uncertainty of San Diego Comic-Con being canceled and the fact that I just finished a 50-page book, which well, if we don't have Comic-Con, I'll just have to wait till next year. So it's just kind of that dance of, can you just tell us yes or no so we can move on? Currently, I'm doing color flatting for a comic book company, so I'm doing okay trying to do some commissions to fill in what I lost from some smaller jobs that got canceled. And kind of sad about WonderCon because I was supposed to be on a really big panel with some really big industry people, and then that kind of fizzled out when they canceled the convention. But otherwise, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, conventions going away, I guess, is probably the biggest hit that I'm taking right now. It's just the like financially, that's the money that won't come back, is a year's worth of conventions sort of going away.
Yeah. And it is unfortunate that many of them had to cancel, but hey, we've got online things now. So
Yeah.
so there's that. So Tony, before the panel, you brought up something you kind of wanted to find out about in the kind of how Trish and Mary have been doing in certain art things, how they approach.
That's always what I'm most curious about on stuff like this, is like how other artists do their work. Like, what's the process of starting on a page or a cover or whatever. Like, I guess for the purpose of this one, because we're talking about ponies, like when you're working on a pony job, how do you start? What are things that you consider? That sort of thing.
Well, for me, I do covers. So I do the retail incentive cover, which doesn't necessarily have to line up with the subject of whatever that issue is about. So I try to think about things that are in character for, Rainbow Dash, hint, hint, my next cover. So I kind of think, what can I do that embodies her personality, her character? What have I not done? This one I'm not going to say exactly, but it's more action than my other covers. I will always start out with a junky piece of computer paper, and I will start scribbling little tiny thumbnails, like really tiny, with a ballpoint pen. And I'll draw like 20 of them. You run it by the editor, and the editor's like, I like this one, and this one. Hasbro really liked this one, so go ahead and go with this. So then what I do is I take it into Photoshop, and I blow it up to the full size of the cover, and then I redraw over the top of it to make it actually look like the model of the character. It looks like Rainbow Dash, solid. And then I'll take another pass to tighten it up, and then I'll take another pass to ink it. Then I'll do the colors, the flat colors, and I've been doing gradients lately, so I put a little bit of gradient shading, gradient highlight, and then I'll do a shading layer, like of a solid cell shaded style, and then a solid highlight. And then I'll just kind of tweak the layer modes, adjust the opacity, see, how it works, kind of adjust the colors after that. And usually that's about how I go about my stuff. Usually you have like a bunch of reference. You're like, oh my gosh, what does she look like from this pose? And, what does that background look like? Because as much as you love the background, you're like, I can't remember what Fluttershy's treehouse looks like. So I have to pull up like 20 images from the cartoon to make sure you've got it right. And basically, if everything goes well, you send it in, and Hasbro says this is awesome, and then you just wait for your paycheck.
How long does one usually take?
For me, I don't have any other jobs, so I just sit down from once I get the approval on the rough. It takes me about a day.
Okay, from inks all the way through colors and.
Yeah.
About you, Trish?
Well, yeah. Well, it's much the same. Only now they've been giving me actual issue descriptions, so that, because I used to do just retailer incentives, now I do like the regular covers. So they'll tell me what the issue is about, and now I can actually, delve into that or what I think it should be. Before it was, hey, I've got a random idea. My first cover, for instance, was, the 6 of them in a minecart flying. Rainbow Dash was pushing them, and of course Applejack was going crazy, like, yay, yeehaw. It was just a fun cover. I got told, have fun with it. So I did. That was my first cover. I did one concept for that first cover. That was it. They said they loved it, so I just went along with it. And after that, I would do what Mary would do. here's 20 concepts. Enjoy picking them out. I don't care what you pick. It's fine. But if I had just the day to do it, it would take, probably 2 or 3 hours start to finish to do the image fully rendered.
How many hours?
Like 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it would be much the same. I would do most of the sketch in here. This is Mischief. The program I'm working in right now is Mischief. Then I would export those sketches to Photoshop. It'll export layers, which is awesome. And you can resize this any way you want, which I love this program. I don't care if this is a commercial for this program. It's fun to sketch in. It's very loose. It's, there's nothing holding you back. No size constraints, nothing. This is a great program. Light.
That's what you do all your pencils in?
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah.
Here lately I found it faster to do everything in Photoshop because I found a nice brush in there that's kind of, faster. But if I need to do everything in there, I will. Because exporting kind of gets a little cumbersome sometimes if you don't know your panel sizes or whatever.
Yeah.
So once it's in Photoshop, this will export layers. But once it's in Photoshop, I just go ink, color, and I'm pretty quick at inking,
And what are the kind of differences between the two programs that makes you want to shift from one to the other in the middle of your process?
Oh, well, like I said, this program is very light, very fast. I can move, quickly between layers and concepts. Erasing is easy, well, it's easy in there. But like these lines are, very free. Whereas Photoshop, I don't know, it just feels like you have to pick a size, you have to pick a canvas size. This, you don't have to pick a canvas size. If your drawing ends up a little too big, like for the screen, you can just, make it small.
Okay.
Without having to, add more canvas or whatever. You just make it smaller.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's like an unlimited canvas.
Exactly. It's unlimited canvas. And it's I think it's like HD resolution no matter how big you get, no matter how small you get.
Okay.
You can save it at whatever DPI you're comfortable with. 300 or 400, 600, whatever.
Okay, because I know somebody who does artwork frequently, and they really love Photoshop and have kind of mastered all of the tools in it. So they're not afraid to look at other programs. It's just that's kind of their place. So
yeah, that's the
show them.
Program I used is Photoshop. I think it was like Photoshop 4, where it was like one undo and one layer, and that was interesting.
Yeah, especially when you're making those quick lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use mainly Photoshop too, especially for finished stuff. I do sometimes sketching in Procreate on my iPad, but that's just when I feel like not sitting at a desk and working on stuff.
I've definitely seen Procreate, and I've tried it because I don't actually have an iPad, but
you would dig it.
I did dig it.
Nice. It's nice. I used it when Tony. What convention were we at? LA Comic-Con.
Could be, yeah.
When he was sitting at his table, he let me use it.
Yeah.
And it records the whole thing, so you have this time lapse that you can see yourself drawing whatever.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And Procreate was the program she's currently using, or what's she currently using?
I'm currently using a program called Mischief.
Is it a free one? Is it a pay program?
I actually think I paid for a license for it. I think you can use it for free, but I paid for a license because you get all the features and stuff.
Okay.
And it was like a $50 one-time, purchase, and you can download it. This will be the 6th time I think I downloaded it. And it'll update every now and again, and it's just like anything else. It's just, I don't know, my preference. I used to draw way back in the day in a program called Open Canvas.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I used to love that because it had interesting line weights. You could really in and out the thickness of your line, which I used to, if you if you followed my artwork for any length of time, I used to really dig like the old school look, the old school comic book where the lines were like almost super thick, but they were really kind of, I don't know, there was a lot of finesse in that way of ink. And, yeah, and it had that. I have yet to find anything that replicates it. It makes me sad, but now if I tried it, I bet you I'd just hate it.
Yeah, and Tony, what's your process with creating comic book panels?
It's similar to what these guys said. Like I said, I've been using Procreate for sketching around lately. So when I do my prelims, my sketches, I'll usually do that in Procreate just because it's sort of the same thing Trish is saying. Like you can sort of work in it a little faster. It's less cumbersome.
Yeah.
And so I can just go in there and bang out ideas. And with ponies, I'll usually only do one sketch, and because I've just done enough of them that they trust me.
Yeah.
And I sort of have an idea what it's supposed to look like. And so then
I've seen your prelims. I couldn't figure them out.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Some of the cover ones are very complicated, but then some of them are very simple. And then my interior pages lately have gotten more and more simple because it's just sort of like the part of the job that's the hardest for me is sort of like figuring out the storytelling of it and planning it all out. And so when I'm in that part, if I can just sort of get through it as fast as possible, I do. And so I'll just do scratchy, rough sort of prelims, and then I'll just tighten everything up and finish them on the inks. So.
Okay. How do you guys figure out the setup for each of the panels? Do you just kind of free form it every time you need, or is there like a template you start with?
It's free form.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say it's free form for me.
Especially with my own personal comics, it's just like as long as I can establish like this is an establishing shot, this is like, you know, the order of the panels of who's talking and what's going on, what's more important versus what's less important. As long as you know those fundamentals, there's no set panel description. You know, it's not the 8 panels on a page. It just whatever makes the story work for us.
Okay.
You write and draw your own stuff. Do you try to keep it at a similar panel count? Do you find yourself going back to the same panel layouts over and over again?
It depends. I've had issues with my printer with bleed, so I kind of stay away from bleed now.
Mm-hmm.
But I mostly I keep around 6 panels on average, but sometimes it can go up to 9. Sometimes it can be down to like 4. It just depends on what is actually happening and how much detail per panel there is. Yeah. Like the pages with less panels are something like, oh my gosh, there's a crowd scene and there's like 50 characters and I don't want to draw that 1,000 times. So it's like one, you know, and then they'll be like, oh, here's the 2 characters talking, and then it shoots back from one character to another character, and just kind of keep that in mind.
6 is a lot to write for yourself. It's a masochistic.
Well, in the sense that
I get mad when somebody else writes me 6.
I have to do page economy because I pay to print my own books.
Sure.
As opposed to Kickstarter, where everyone's like, well, I could go 400 pages, and I'm like, I can print 100. Yeah. That's it. So you gotta tell the same story in that less amount of space. But
that makes sense.
If you had as much money to do whatever, I would completely be like the airy fairy. There's like one drawing on a page, that'd be like amazing, but not financially feasible for me.
Yeah.
I'm considering myself super lucky. The issue I'm working on now has 2 splash pages.
Oh, that's fun.
So I like those. Those make me happy. Then there's the page before that that's got 9 panels on it, and I'm just like, oh, traffic.
Do you count those montagey things as splash pages, though?
Yeah, because I mean, to me, it's all one illustration. Although that started out as 6 illustrations, just so you know.
So much detail, though.
It's just nice one image, though.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it'll probably only take about an hour to ink it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be beautiful when it's done, and I can't wait for everybody to see it.
Yeah.
Well, then also the one thing that I found helped a lot with my panels is I'll draw the backgrounds separately. So like a larger version. So if the characters are like in a different panel, just kind of crop it in, and then you don't have to keep drawing it 7,000 times.
Yeah.
Big help.
Yeah, I do that too, actually.
Like animation style.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because I also did animation work. I've done some storyboards and some rough stuff. I used to help people do their pitches. They would hire me like, hey, can you make a sizzle reel? Can you do some character designs? And so I'd have my hands in all the little facets of it. So it's like, hey, let's animate today.
One of the questions we've gotten in the comments is, how hard was it to successfully mix Transformers and MLP?
That's for you, Tony.
Oh,
Okay.
It wasn't that hard because I draw the ponies a little more serious, and I draw the Transformers a little more cartoony, just by way of how my style is anyway. So it sort of was already at like a middle ground where they fit together pretty nicely. So I didn't have to go too far out of my way as far as like designing them differently or making them fit together. I can show you some stuff. I think Trish, do you have to?
Oh yeah, let me stop.
How does it work?
I stop, then you go.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'll put that full screen.
What do I press?
There's
There's
a green button that says share screen.
Oh, share screen. Got it. Okay. Here, I'll show you. This is my. Is that you see that? Can you see it?
Oh, there we go.
there we
It started.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm coloring right now. This is from issue 4 of Ponies and Transformers, and it's sort of like the big showdown between everybody.
Yeah.
So this is in Photoshop.
Yeah.
But so that's those two, and then it's just a big splash for the bottom half of the page with all these ponies and Transformers jumping out at you. So as you can see, like the Transformers are sort of more simple, and the ponies are like slightly more complicated, but not too much,
Yeah.
just slightly. So that's that one. Here's one. This is from issue 1. That's Windblade, who's a Transformers character that's a newer character. My friend Margaret actually, I think, invented her, if that's right. And then this is also from issue 4, sort of like the big standoff. All these Decepticons coming to attack the Crystal Empire.
Yeah. How do they set up the dialogue in these panels, or is there dialogue at this point?
There is. There's a letterer who works at IDW. They have in-house letterers. How do I get this to go back?
I can get you guys full screen. There we go.
Yeah, there's a letterer that works at IDW, and it's their job to put the letters in. I draw all the sound effects myself just because I like doing that, and like I feel like that's part of the art.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Oh.
And so I'll do that part of the lettering, but the letterer works there, and they just go through, usually in Adobe Illustrator, and pop in all the balloons and the letters. They have the fonts, and there's different fonts for different books, and different characters have different fonts. I think in this one, the Transformers and the ponies have different fonts. So yeah, and part of our job is setting it up when we lay it out so that all the characters are in the right order, so that the letterer can just go through and put the balloons in, so it still reads left to right. That's one of the main jobs that we have that a lot of people don't think about. Is like, we get the script and it says all these people say this dialogue, and we're not just drawing a picture, we're drawing a picture where all the people are standing in the right place so that the balloons can go over their heads, so it reads in the correct order. Because otherwise you get tails switching behind each other, and it gets confusing.
Okay.
Well, that's the one good thing about doing your own comic, because if you don't have enough space, you can always shrink your art so you can put in the balloons if you made a mistake.
Oh yeah.
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 Because I also letter my own stuff too.
Same.
And a funny joke about Transformers before I forget. I did sketch cards for Transformers. Can you imagine drawing all the fully articulated Transformers on a 2x3 card?
Ooh.
I had to do like 50 of those. That was like a lesson in masochism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I letter too when I do my own stuff, and it is nice to be able to sort of move stuff around if you have to, or change the dialogue if it doesn't all quite fit, or But with ponies, they're gonna put all the letters in there no matter what most of the time. So you
Exactly. I would have planned
idiot-proof it.
I would have planned better in my first my first round of inferiors, I would have planned better if I knew that's how the lettering would go.
Mhm.
And the lettering's quite large for My Little Pony. Like, I feel like it's very, I don't know. I feel like it's very thick
Yeah.
because you're writing it for kids, and I get it. I do. But I would have planned it a lot better if like one of the it's only like 2 or 3 panels, but it's like half the character got cut out because word balloon.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I would have planned that better. Whoopsie.
Well, in the early days, like Silver Age stuff, all the way up through like the 80s and 90s, they would letter right on the boards before you inked them. So like the artist would go through and pencil everything out, and then they would get lettered, and then you could ink after that. So it sort of gave you a second chance to squeeze stuff around and move it like that afterwards. That because of the way that the workflow is now, that doesn't happen anymore. But that would be a wonderful opportunity to have, to get to sort of move your stuff around the lettering nowadays. But it sort of doesn't work that way
Just show me
anymore.
the ghost of where it's gonna be, and then
Yeah.
I will shrink that little character's head down a little bit so it doesn't get completely masked by words.
Yeah.
But now I look at what they're saying, and I'm like, okay, well, I can see just about how gigantic that word balloon's gonna be. Maybe I don't. Maybe I give them more headspace.
Yeah, it gets pretty intuitive the more you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Another question we've gotten in the comments is: Would any of you do a My Little Pony and Gem and the Holograms crossover?
Me,
Oh yeah.
me.
Girl, yeah. Same here.
No, Trish got her job, right?
Yes, and I literally just looked at that piece the other day, and I actually said something like that on my Twitter. I was like, anything you want to do? Me.
I will do it.
I do a piece of with My Little Pony. Each of the characters was individual too, and I spent hours and hours and hours, so much time. It took me like a whole week to finish that poster, and I had it at LooneyCon one year, and Sarah Richards said something nice about it. And first of all, I about died. She was, she's 80s glam queen, and I love her so much. She said something nice about it, and then she mentioned it to one of the editors. I guess it was Bobby at IDW, and he reached out to me to draw a pony cover, and that's how I got my first gig.
Damn.
But yeah, so it was all about Gem and the Holograms, flying the rainbows, whatever.
I would suggest that you would have to it would have to be an Equestria Girls crossover to start with, at least. I would never, like I said before, I never want to see the ponies and people together in the same place. It just creeps me out.
Well, I think on the show, they actually, on the My Little Pony show, one of the background characters in the Halloween episode was actually dressed like Gem, which was really cute. Yeah.
They also even had a wink and a nod to Megan from the original 80s cartoon in one of the specials. I was like, hey, I know that girl.
But yeah, and I would agree. It would have to almost be in Equestria Girls style to make it work, because I don't want to see a My Little Pony the size of like a human character.
Yeah.
Then they could go through the mirror, and then you could have Pony Gem in the pony world.
Exactly.
Oh, but what if Gem, when she went through the mirror, she turned back into Jerica? That'd be crazy. That she went through all glamorous, and then she popped up on the other side just a regular person, still very glamorous.
You know that they would have to have a battle of the bands.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 100%. Hundo P.
Yeah.
Yep. Would need to have some Misfits action in that.
Because their songs are better.
Yeah, their songs are better.
All right. Another question we've gotten is Megan going to make an appearance in the comics? I'm not quite sure who they're talking about. Maybe you guys do?
Megan's the human girl from the original show.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, probably not. Are there ever any like Easter eggs you guys have put in the comics that are?
I did.
Ooh.
On the cover that I did with Discord, right under his claw is my character.
Okay.
I don't. And then there's and somebody figured this out on issue 36. There's a silhouette in Rarity's room, And they're like, "That's your OC." I'm like, "Wow, you guys are really good." But they didn't notice the patterns on the fabric was for my Zori Lita characters.
Ooh, clever addition. What about you, Tony? Have you ever kind of snuck something in the comics?
I used to. The main thing that I do is I usually will hide characters from other issues that we've done, because I like to sort of build like a inner comics continuity. Like the same way they do in the show, background characters will show up in different episodes.
Yeah.
I like to do that too, because the way the comics work, a lot of times they'll need a new character to introduce some sort of plot or something. So like we'll have like, oh, this lady runs a magic shop, or this person has an antique store, and then to bring them back in again later on, or like this is a librarian from Appaloosa, just like we sort of invented all these little characters, and if I don't put them back in, then they just sort of go away forever. So I feel like a responsibility to them to have them pop up again here and there.
Okay.
I haven't done many interiors yet. I have 2 that are kind of, I did the free comic book day issue, but God knows when free comic book day will be. So
May next year.
But I put some stuff in there. I brought some stuff from the show to that, since it's the beginning of season 10, as they call it.
Okay.
And my current issue that I'm working on, I can't really say too much about it. I'm just wrapping it up.
Okay.
Yeah. But on the covers now, I don't really hide too much.
Yeah, but it's fun, I'm sure.
Oh, it's absolutely fun. I mean, I know I don't think about it until the end, and then I'm like, oh, well, I could probably squeeze, this little nod here or that little whatever there and get away with it. But it's got to be something that's really busy.
Yeah.
And I did do that for the free comic book day issue, wink. But
wink.
But when it comes out, then everybody will see it.
Okay. There was another question when you had the Derpy art on screen, Trish.
Oh.
They were like, "Are you drawing Derpy? Can I buy it?"
Can you buy the Derpy?
Yeah.
I'll just put it on Twitter. It'll be okay.
Yeah, they could see it. Actually, are any of you guys doing commissions or any work like that, or is it just industry stuff?
I do commissions too. I do commissions and industry stuff.
Okay.
Can people get commissions from you?
Yeah. I've just done a bunch of, I think I've done about 10 watercolor commissions in the last week.
How do they reach you?
Oh,
I
sorry.
think we missed that first word.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You just said, can people get commissions?
My bad.
Yeah. It's like, what? Yeah, you can email me at zorilita@gmail.com. ZORILITA@gmail.com. I'm doing traditional and I'm doing digital, depending on whatever you want.
Okay.
I'm not doing commissions right now, except for finishing leftover commissions that I have. But I do have a sale going on original comic book art, covers, and interior pages, and like sketchbooks and stuff on my store, which is tonyfleece.com, TonyFleecs.com. All through this pandemic, everything's 25% off. But for people, if you're watching this right now, for today and tomorrow, everything will be 35% off.
Okay.
So if you're watching this, you can get an extra 10% off at TonyFleece.com.
Yes, and their websites are linked on their Twitters that are linked below, just so that's there.
Mary, you had something else?
Yes.
I was going to say, on my store, I have it's zorilita.com. I do have My Little Pony prints that I did limited edition. They were from some of the covers that I sold out a long time ago. I do have a few issues of my retail incentive covers left, and some My Little Pony stickers if that's the thing anyone wants.
Okay.
That is the thing people want.
I'm sure they do, yes. So another question that's come up is, what issue/cover do y'all have had the most fun drawing? Kind of worded a little
I
weird.
answered that at the beginning.
Yeah.
My cover, it was my first cover was for Friends Forever 33. I want to say it was 33.
I think it was one.
What was that?
I think it might have been one of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my issue, the first one that I got to do was the ponies in the mine car. They actually used it for one of the omnibuses or not omnibus, whatever, the little grouping of the little volume pack of
Trade paperback.
Right.
yeah, trade paperback. Vocabulary, people.
Yes.
But yeah, they used it for that, and they used it for something else, which was fantastic. I didn't know they were going to use it for other things, which was a nice surprise. It was volume 8 for Friends Forever, of them in the little mine car. That was one of my favorite ones. I don't know why. It just was so lively, bright.
Yeah, that one's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite cover was the one where I made the joke that Discord is a brony. And so he's got the entire wall of plush figurines of all the characters. And of course, the Fluttershy is his favorite one.
Yeah.
I don't really have a favorite, I don't think. I'm always just trying to sort of do something new. Like I said, I've done a whole lot of them.
Well, for yours, I liked the 4 covers where you did for the movie.
Oh yeah, where they were like movie stars.
Yes, that was badass.
Thank you. I just did one that I'm pretty proud of for My Little Pony number 88. Let me see if I can show it.
Okay.
That one's awesome too.
Yeah, that one was because 88 was sort of like the last one of the Pony comics before they switched into season 10, or in this case, possibly the last one of all time.
Hey.
Oh.
But
Yeah, my cover was supposed to be for, I think, issue 91.
Ooh.
no. Well, I'm sure they'll come back. I mean, issue 91 will definitely come out at some point. But yeah,
Do you
this
still
is
have the original inks of this?
yeah, that one's still in my store.
I'm still trying to figure out if I need to mortgage a kidney.
Don't you dare.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, so that I'd always sort of wanted to do one that had just like a ton of ponies on it, and if we're being honest, I would love to even have done more than this, but they don't pay by the pony, so at a certain point just had to stop. But it was always sort of my dream to do like John Byrne used to do these covers for the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, where it just had all these Marvel characters on it, and I sort of wanted to do the pony version of that. And I
Too bad
wanted
they didn't let you do a wraparound for this one.
I asked, and they did not have the money.
Aw.
But yeah, that one's one of my favorites. At least one of my most recent favorites. And then I have let's see here. I'll bring up one more. I just did a Fluttershy one that I really like too, for Ponies Transformers.
Okay.
It looks like this. I'm very proud of that one, just because I like how shiny the tapes are, and I invented these little Transformer butterflies.
Yeah.
So
Which
fun.
I guess there already were Transformer butterflies, but they didn't look as cute as this, so I made cuter ones.
Yeah. Cuteness for the win.
Yeah.
It's funny that you had the Transformers, because I had pitched a cover where Discord had turned the main 6 into a Megazord, kind of like Voltron.
Oh, cool.
So
Yeah,
they really loved it, but I think they're like, well, we're already going to do Transformers, so
Yeah.
go with this one.
And I don't think Hasbro doesn't own Voltron either.
No.
It's
Well,
much
it was
easier to get away with it when they don't have to
Yeah.
get lawyers involved.
Yeah.
Well, we did a Megazord inside the comics in one of my first ones. We did the Cutie Mark Crusaders in a Megazord, me and Jeremy. And they fought like a big mutated gummy, like a Godzilla style gummy.
Another question that's come through the comments is, has the show ending affected the creative process in any way?
I don't think so. I think what I liked about the G4 version of My Little Pony is, it kind of lets you make, and plus the fans of the show already made this huge world kind of outside of the core show.
Yeah.
So it kind of made it really easy to just kind of let your imagination go. Imagine what the inside of another pony's house looks like, to, you know, be able to frame a scene up for something like that. I don't know. To me, it didn't really change much.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I still love the same characters, and I don't think that anyone will ever forget them. It's like, you can watch the same show and still like the reboot or still like the retro version. I think it's all going to be pretty awesome when the new thing comes out.
Yeah, the only difference is it sort of gave us like a jumping off point to do, this is the status quo now, and it's not going to necessarily change because a new season's not going to start and move them to a different place. So it's sort of, the only difference is that it just sort of gives us new stuff to play with, or like a new status quo to play with.
Okay. Are there any kind of headcanons that you guys have thought of as you're drawing out a panel? Kind of thought, oh, this is how this character is now. That is a thing now.
I can't say that I have yet.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know.
I know that I've had those thoughts, but I can't think of one specifically. There's just been so much over the last, however many years that I'm sure of, 20 times I've gone like, that's a thing that happens now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right. That's currently all the questions that are in the comments. So is there anything else you guys would like to bring up, maybe discuss?
I don't think so. This has been fun. I think we could,
Yeah, we can wrap up.
Yeah. I'm going to pitch my store one more time, though. You guys should come to TonyFleece.com. 35% off today and tomorrow, and then 25% off the rest of the time until the world gets better. So if you want some original stuff, if you're thinking about getting something, now's probably the best time to get it, because it won't get much cheaper than that unless it turns into a Mad Max apocalypse.
And then we fight for toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can check out my ZoriLita.com to find my store that has my own personal comics, faux facts, heck, My Little Pony stickers, Sonic the Hedgehog stuff. And you can also commission me. Just email me at zorilita@gmail.com, and I can give you a traditional watercolor painting or a digital art. Yeah.
All right.
I'm not hawking anything right now. I'm just, plugging away. Just my Twitter and Facebook have devolved into mostly memes.
That's how you're getting by.
That's how I'm getting by. That's how I'm living my quarantine life.
Yeah, so if you like memes, she's the place to be.
Yeah, I'm working on ponies and dogs and
our dog thing comes out next year, hopefully too.
Yeah, barring the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, all I'm doing is working on Epic. Yeah, Epic comics for kids. So if you check out like the Bright Family, what was it? Cat Ninja is another.
Oh
one.
yeah, Yehudi.
Yeah. Yes, I've done about 2 issues. Probably going to do some more stuff. Can't really talk about it, but I do all the color flatting, so half of the color work is me.
Cool.
All right. Well, this has been the comic book artists panel for LooneyCon. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you again eventually.
See you guys. Thanks for coming.
Ciao.
Later.